Welcome to Season 5 of Redesigning Your Relationships podcast.
Our intro didn't play.
As your host, Yvette Baldenegro
and Giovanna Burgess-White,
we bring you fresh perspectives, bold conversations, and transformative tools to elevate every connection in your life.
This year, we're embracing new year, new vibes with a refined focus on the trifecta of self, time, and money, guiding you to cultivate the relationships you desire and deserve. Each week, we'll unveil elevated insights designed to inspire, empower, and help you thrive in every facet of your life.
Welcome to Season 5. Let's begin this transformative journey together.
So there was already a tech issue because we were live before the intro, and now we're back to being live. So hi, welcome.
Hi. Maybe it's April Fool's still.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Welcome to April, and maybe April 1 just keeps playing over and over and over. So happy April Fool's kind of day, and Gio, welcome, happy welcome to your whole month worth of celebration of all things Gio, and all I keep thinking of is, what is a Gio? Oh my gosh, I could literally do a whole month of that. I should have done a whole month of putting stuff on our social media definition, 30 days definition of what is a geo. I would have, you know what? Maybe that's our 10-year, I don't know, 5-year. I have no idea, but I could really do some stuff with that. What is a geo?
I love it. I'm actually working on another post for what is a geo at 43. So I'm working on that. I don't know when it's going to come out. I don't know if I'm going to. Yeah, because we've been talking. We've been talking with our clients, our community and our clients, and like, it's funny, but it's also like, I don't know, like, it's just like an all-in-one post. So if like someone wants to know a little bit more and like what's happening now, what's happening in the year of 43 of what is a geo. And so I think it's important that, again, being our own voice and doing that for ourselves. But girl, if you want to do that on my 5th birthday or on our 5th year anniversary, I'd love that, because my love language is like, well, I just told somebody a really good itinerary that's detailed is a love language of mine. A great playlist, a music playlist. And then number 3, reels, like reels, photo, social media with purpose and intent. Like I am a lover of that. And so when people know, and I would love to do this for everybody, do not get me wrong, but my closest family and friends, if you get a reel for your birthday from me, that is like the ultimate gift of love. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do that for myself, because I just don't, because I'm like, oh, that's so weird. But I'm like, no, I am. So that's what I'm working on right now. Side note.
Okay. So the funny part would be to be the anti-reel to your reel of what is a geo. What is a geo? And girl, I'm only going to say this because it's on our podcast, and this whole thing today is going to get down and I think a little dirty, but talking about relationships. I just like to put out there though that your reel is, it's also going to be branded and go with the flow of your grid and all the things. So let's just be real with that one.
Music to my ears. Music to my ears. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Well, welcome all you to our month of what is a geo, and more importantly, kind of a month on relationships. And crazy enough, obviously we're YG collaborations. We start off with saying we're relationship coaches, and people automatically go into, oh, as in people you're dating and seeing and married to and all the things. And it's like, yes and no. We get to that if we need to or you want to, but relationship with yourself first is first and foremost. But this whole month is going to be our true relationships and the wake-up call of what's really happening. And is it time sometimes to try to fix things, which relationships can 100% be fixed? Or is it like, I think this is just time for me to let it go? Everything we're going to talk about is 100% relatable to your intimate relationships, your romantic relationships, and all the way to work relationships, friend relationships, because you can find correlations in all of it. And sometimes we have those friendships that we just sometimes have to go, you know what? I love them, but I just need to let it go. It's run its course, which is okay. And the great thing is we solicited questions, because we're usually doing all the talking, but we really wanted to know, we had a feeling of where everybody was at in relationships, that we're going to bring up the questions and really or answer them authentically. And the fun thing about when we do things like this, I love how we have two different perspectives, because there's no right or wrong, I don't think, but it's nice to have a different age flavor, a different, I mean, we're both ethnic, but raised different. And just life, experience different. So I'm really excited about this. And there's 3 parts in our series, because we all know that relationships are intense and there's a lot to talk about. So part 1 is going to be, we drift apart. Let's just, that is the number one thing that starts to happen in any kind of relationship. You just start to drift apart. So why does it fade and how to bring it back? Part 2 is going to be the silence between us, because that's what happens when couples, it's that whole ignoring thing, and how to stop the communication breakdown. And then part 3 is trust, time, and dollars, which you notice the 2 of those things are things we talk about all the time, the money factor and the time factor, and the keys to a stronger relationship. And I really do think, and you can continue to send in questions. We will answer as many as we can, but I really think that this is going to be some good conversation. The realities. Dun, 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 dun. All right. You're so quiet today. It makes me nervous. Speaking of what it was, a Geo, a true Geo is not quiet.
I'm on a delay, and the tech is killing me today. So if I'm quiet, it's because of this delay. But why don't you do part 1 and 3, and I'll do part 2. That way I have less to be delayed on.
Oh my God. Well, we're only doing part 1 today. We got the 3.
Oh, just kidding.
Yeah, it's each time in the next 3 weeks, we're just doing each part, because I have these questions that were sent in. Okay, so part 1, drifting apart, why love fades and how to bring it back. Here are the top 3 things as to why. And again, just to say, this is not Yvette and Gio's thought process. This is 100% the research that we do behind the scenes to give you the latest and greatest stats and information that's out there. So here are the top 3 reasons why love fades, why we just start drifting apart in relationships. Number 1, the loss of an emotional connection. And I'm going to name all 3, and then we can talk about them however we want. Physical and emotional distance, which those kind of tie together, and different goals and visions. You would think it might be other things, but that first 2 items, that a lot of that is just pure communication and going back to like the original, why were you even with the person to begin with kind of thing. Like, you lose something. What did you lose? We'll find it. Like, let's really try to discover and find it. But number 1, the loss of emotional connection. We are such emotional beings. And in love relationships, romantic relationships, I feel like that is the number 1 thing that excites you in the very beginning, because it's all the fun emotions and your heart rate and your butterflies and all those things. You feel so connected to that person. You're having these deep conversations and it goes on for hours and so amazing. But then, hey, life happens. You've got a career. They've got a career. You've got kids. You're traveling, whatever. Sometimes that, and years and all kinds of life things that happen. And there's a lot of not so fun things that happen in life and in a relationship. That emotional connection starts to disappear. It goes away. And when you're not connected with someone and you're not feeling that like there's something between you, that is when you start to look around. You start to feel that disconnection and you start to go, oh, I'm just going to start doing my own life, my own way, being me, which is, we could talk about that too, because that's a good perceiving thing, to be yourself and to really have a life that you're 100% like, I'm good all by myself. But when you're in a relationship, you're not 100% by yourself. There's something in the commitment and being connected to someone that you've had some form of conversation that says we're together. And then you have to define, what is that together for the 2 of you? It may not look like your neighbor, may not look like someone else in your family. What is it for you? So do we want to jump into the questions, or do we want to talk about these 2 things? Okay, jump into the questions. Oh, I'm going to go with the first one, because it kind of just I think starts the tone in a really great way. But we are going to keep these all anonymous, but we got really great question. And I think it's more of a comment. That's why I want to bring it up first. And she said, I have a hard time talking about love and relationships, just pure, having a hard time talking about it. I was like, I think that's what I think that whether it's relationship, love, physical aspects of relationship, talking about intimacy, people just get so uncomfortable. And I don't know it just if that's a cultural thing, if that's a Western world thing, we make it either some mysterious thing or weird, or that shouldn't be talking about it, or if you have questions that you should have everything all together. And I 100%, I came from the generation, a lot of my relationship skills that I learned about came from Vogue and Cosmopolitan, those quizzes that they used to have in there, and they still probably could, but that's it. It seemed like if I was talking amongst my friends, we're just like the blind leading the blind, or the experiences at the moment of like what's happening in our friend group, not necessarily real true wisdom of relationships. And again, I'm such an open thinker and so to the point, and like I'm so like, hey, if we can't talk about it, maybe we shouldn't be doing it. And that's even a relationship. If you can't talk about being in a relationship, maybe you shouldn't be in a relationship. I come from that perspective, but I know that not everybody does. And I can 100% see and have seen how it's so uncomfortable for people to talk about their feelings and or their vulnerability of just being in a relationship. And I get it.
Yeah, but I also think too, it goes back to, if we become more comfortable with talking about relationships, we have to know what we want out of a relationship and what we're willing to give out of a relationship. But it's also going to go to the third point that we had in this. It's going to save you time and money. Okay. And I very lucky that I've never had to be on dating apps, and I never had to date in the generation that dates now. But to me, it's like, you got to know your boundaries, your worth, your value, and again, what you want, or at least a foundation of what you want, so that you can communicate that with the person that you're about to get involved with. And also, if you want to meet someone to eventually get married and like have a family, that should be something that comes up honestly right away. But because we haven't normalized that, and it's like we watch all these movies and social media and like the whole dating shows, it's like it's this facade instead of it being like not talking about money, not talking about sex, not talking about relationships. It's never No one's normalized it. We're trying to. It's better than where it needed to be, but it is one of those things where you have to know exactly what you want, or like I said, like a foundation, and be able to have that conversation, because if you don't, then there's just no point. There's no point. You're wasting each other's time and money. You're gonna have to go into this real quick, and I'm gonna have to take a quick pause, because why would it? Guess what just showed up on my doorstep?
Are you kidding me?
No, the heart. So, and of course, hey guys, we're live. So I'm gonna put myself on mute. I'm gonna put myself off camera, and it'll be Yvette, and you just keep on giving your wisdom.
Oh, sure. Okay. So I'm just going to say, peace out. Come back as soon as you can. So I remember Gio and I, when we were in another world that we were in, we met with a lot of engaged couples, and we used to hear all the time, we would ask them, so have you guys talked about your budget? Have you talked about this? It was like crickets. No, we don't talk about budget. We have not talked about our finances. And it was really just the honeymoon side of, well, we just know we love each other, we care about each other, and we'll be fine. I think that is the attitude that is festering or creating years down the road of whether you feel like you didn't really know that person, or you feel like we didn't talk about the hard things. So now that hard things are coming up in life, we're not really understanding how we want to respond, or we didn't realize that both of us come from different ways of looking about this. And so now we're just kind of stuck. I don't know generationally, how that all psychology, as far as like what the different generations do and what they don't do, it's just this overlying, it's hard and it's uncomfortable to talk about. But ironically, this is can be the most hurtful, damaging, deep part of our being that we give of ourselves, we take from another person. We're intimately involved. We're so connected at such a deep level. And yet, the thought processes or the ability to really have those conversations may not be happening. And in my mind, I just think I don't understand, but I understand. Like, I get where people are coming from with the inability to have a hard time really discussing these things. I will say, for the person that wrote this in, I know this seems like, oh my gosh, that's like an easy or thing to do, but it could be hard. Asking yourself why. Why is it hard for me just to talk about love and or my relationships? I would say that most of the time, just even with our clients or just being coaches, we hear it's because something has happened, unfortunately, that you feel a certain way that you don't feel comfortable sharing. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to be open because maybe sometime in your life when you were vulnerable, you got screwed or someone really hurt you. And the thought of opening up again like that just is not appealing to anybody in any way. I think I just saw Gio's arm, but that's okay. We're going to keep going. Here's another question that came in. Can a relationship survive if we've developed different life goals? Whew. So in a previous life that I had, we did a lot of marital counseling. And I will say, just in general, because it might apply to some of these other questions that have come in, it is extremely difficult. And this is raw and real. I'm not trying to candy coat anything. It is very difficult to be in a relationship where it is lopsided. If only one person truly values the relationship or wants more or is in love, and is honoring that commitment. If it's one-on-one and one of them isn't, how do you can't force someone to love you. You can't force someone to want to talk about things. You can't force someone to be committed. You can't force them to talk about their emotions or even engage as if they are even halfway interested. You just can't. So you do have to make that decision. You might have to make the decision, if this person isn't willing to do life with me, how does that make me feel? And where do I want to go from here? But as far as the goals are concerned, the reason I just brought up what I said is because if there is a solid ground and a solid foundation, and there is true love and commitment and respect, and you truly understand what your values and your goals and where you want to go, it's okay that they're not the same. I 100% believe, and actually sometimes it may strengthen your relationship if everything isn't, we love the same, we want to go to the same restaurants, we want to go to the same movies, we want to, it's like, it may actually strengthen your relationship to say, this is their goal that they're working on and they're in it, and they're like, because you're growing as a separate individual, so that when you do come together, I mean, your conversations will be more dynamic because you have different things to talk about. And I don't know, I think that no, you don't have to have the same goals. Now, goal is an interesting word because goal means like, are we reaching for, or do we want to meet the same expectation as far as like something that we really want? Right? You can have separate, but if you're really talking like goals as far as, do we both want to save money at retirement, for retirement? Do we both want to have children? Those kind of goals where they're together. Again, those conversations need to happen, hopefully, before you get into the relationship so that you understand where you are in the relationship at the moment. But if someone comes up with a new goal or changes their mind, again, I firmly believe if two people are committed, they really truly love each other, I think you can work through anything, because then there's just a true understanding of the value of the other person. How does the other person feel? What is their perspective? Why do they feel that way? How can I grow with them? How can I understand them more? Am I being selfish? Are they being like, you get to ask those things in a whole different way of understanding when there's that connection together to process those goals. You're back really early. They must have come in and they're doing other things, and you're going to go check in on them.
Chris is here, and it's literally going to be a while. They're going to be back and forth. So we're sponsored by the Sleep Number today. Sleep Number beds.
Okay. Well, let's go to another question, because then you can answer it if you want to. Okay. Next question. Ooh, we used to have so much fun together, but now it feels like we're just coexisting. How do we bring back the spark?
Oh man, it's so crazy because I just went to a wedding this weekend, and it was like one of these things where I was like, okay, everybody asks Chris and I, like Chris and I have been together for 10 years married and then 14 years all together. And it's like, what do you guys do? And all the things. And I'm like, there's so many things. And the simple way to answer this is that this is happening to everybody. They may not tell you that. No one's going and talking about how the bad things in their marriage or what's not working. But what I did say, we got to do a speech together, Chris and I, was it's just there's different seasons and you grow and you change. But if you aren't talking about that and you aren't letting that person know again, and it goes into, I think we're gonna talk about this in a different topic, but like visions and goals, and like when you get together, it's a season, a year, 2 years, 3 years, you get married, like you have kids. And so you shouldn't be the same. And I think a lot of partners think that your marriage is going to be the same the whole time, and you don't understand that growth and change does exist within each other, but also within yourselves. And so one of the things that I like to tell people is there's going to be times where you're in the driver's seat and your partner isn't, and vice versa. And there's going to be times where your partner is growing at a different pace or doing things differently than you are, and it's just not your time yet. But just knowing to respect that, talk about it, communicate about it, and then have that safe space and not judge, because I think that's the other part. You don't talk about it because you're feeling these things inside that are completely different. It's not the person you married. You're not the person they married. So it goes so long and so uncomfortable that until something bad happens or the D word comes up, that these conversations start to happen and both parties are like, whoa, what? So to me, it's like, you're gonna have to get uncomfortable, but the sooner you do and the sooner you have those conversations, you'll start to find things that you have in common again, or you start to do things that you didn't know you wanted to do. And that comes with time and money. It's all tied back to that too. There's going to be seasons where you're working and there's no time and there's no money, but you're working hard together for a reason to have that. So that's kind of like a long-winded, but it's something that we've gone through in our relationship. We're going through that, but we also go through that with our partners. And we talk about it because we're relationship coaches. And when we talk about these things with our clients, they're like, oh, well, we've never talked about that with our partner. And I'm like, well, it's time to do that. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah. Okay. So with that, the whole sparkle to me, of course, if anybody's listened to us for the past 5 years knows that, oh my God, if the SEX word ever comes up, Yvette's like, let's do this, let's talk. But the word sparkle to me is like that extra, like, how do we bring back that fun mojo? And they did use the word fun. So I did think of like, okay, let's go through a really realistic scenario. Couple gets married. What do we all do? We have kids. You have the kids, and then all of a sudden, right? Oh my God, I'm too tired. I've got to go to work. There's chores that need to be done. Now there's homework. Good, driving people back and forth. The kids are crying. It's all about the kids. Then the kids leave, and the two of you are in your house together, and then you're like, we used to have so much fun. We've lost that, and the sparkle is gone. What do I do? That, to me, that's more the practical. There's so many things, but let's just take again that woman. Here's most of the things that we women tell ourselves. I'm not as fun as I used to be. I don't go out. I don't take care of myself. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I look in clothes. I don't like the way I look naked. I don't want to be with them anymore. What if they judge me? What if they don't love me anymore? What if he doesn't want to be with me? Like, we start telling ourselves all these negative things when, one, the other person may not even be thinking that. And two, if we just had that conversation or the honesty with ourselves, that sparkle necessarily isn't your relationship issue. That's more of a issue with yourself, because if you yourself are not sparkling from the inside, how are you going to sparkle on the outside? And so then you don't feel like you want to sparkle. So again, that's why we start with ourselves and our relationship with ourselves, because we can place blame on someone else all day long, but we have to look in the mirror and go, all right, well, who do I need to be better to be more of that sparkle person? Because the more you are a sparkle person, the more that's going to exude from you, and then people see it around you, which obviously your partner is going to pick up on that. But I also do want to say, I think that the word communication in every single one of these questions is going to come up. You've got to talk about how you think and how you feel, and really get a really good sense of what the other person thinks and feels too. All right, moving right along. What if one person wants to work on the relationship, but the other seems checked out? I kind of alluded to this in the beginning, as far as like, if one person, it takes two. I don't care how you look at any kind of arrangement, it takes two people, or else it's either this or you're constantly doing like this. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, which is fine, right? But if it's this all the time and you're this person, you're gonna be like, I'm so frustrated because they just never seem like they want to come to the table. I think a conversation needs to be had. But I will say, at the end of the day, and this may seem really harsh to people about their own personal morality and versions of what you can and cannot do, but this is what I think. At the end of the day, ask yourself this question. If this person, seemingly that they're totally checked out, if they never change, and you are 90 years old sitting on your porch looking back in your life, are you going to look at your life and go, it's all right, bored off, totally bored, never connected, it was never good, I always felt this way, they never changed, and I'm good with that? I got stuck at age whatever and it never got any better and I was fine? Or are you going to look back on your life and go, I'm really glad I made some different decisions and valued myself and who I am, wanting to be with another person who values me, because my life turned out totally different, or I made choices that my life came out different? That is a personal decision, and there's really no right or wrong, because we're not the ones living your life. You have to ask yourself that. Am I willing to accept this person as they are today for the rest of their lives? Or do I want to try to be the change first and then make a change with this person?
Well, you and I both have been in those situations, and look at us now.
Yeah.
So we are.
And it's not easy. I get it.
It's not. But you get, I mean, it's the point of, it does take two. And how long are you willing to stay in a relationship? How long are you willing to stay in a relationship when the other person doesn't want to be part of it? And that is also not just with your partner. Like, this is not just partner. This can be with friends. This can be with community. And again, it's not to sound selfish. It's like, is this relation serving you? Now, you said it earlier. You have to do the work first, right? You have to do the work, be open to communication, ask for understanding, counseling. Like, there's so many tools and resources, but there is going to be a time and a place. And again, it can be partner, it can be family, it can be community, it can be friendships, that you have to go, okay, my time and my energy is being given to this relationship. What am I getting in return? And if it's not what you need, then that's the time where it's okay to let it go. And that's another thing. Like, I think we don't normalize ending relationships and seasons of change. And I think we're still like, oh my God, it didn't work out. And oh no, we tried and we did. And we've seen this go really bad. And we've also seen relationships in all forms both end well, and people can have closure and move forward. And I think, that's one of the things on why we love to be relationship coaches. But again, it starts with us and the time that we're willing to spend in setting those boundaries and having the conversations and really be okay with saying, I've done what I need to do. And now it's time for me to move on, to give that time and that energy either back to myself or to open myself up to other relationships that are going to serve me. And to me, that sounds normal and great to us because we've been there, we've done it. And trust me, there's relationships still that I'm like, I have to sit back and really think about it. And we do this with our communities. When we're honest about it, every year we reassess, like, where's YGC putting their time? What has it done for us? Are we growing, right? Because if we're not growing and evolving in those relationships, then why are we there? And so it's the time of reflection and pause, and also making this, we have to be the bigger person to make the decision, to have the conversation of just saying thank you, but it's time for me to move forward.
All right, you have time for one more?
We can.
Okay. Last one. How do I know if we're just in a rough patch or if we're truly growing apart? I think the hardest thing is the word communication, communication, communication. My gut instinct tells me if someone said that to me, I'd be like, don't make an assumption. Don't make an assumption that just because you feel one way, the other person feels the other way. So start again with asking the questions of like, hey, I don't know how you're feeling right now, but like, I just want to have this conversation. Like, how's it been going for you lately? In general, for the other person, right? Not just, oh, I noticed we're not connected anymore. Why is that? Just like ask them what's going on in your, you don't have no idea. A rough patch could be because the other person at work is struggling or something. They've got a project that their mind is so focused on, they're worried, they're so concerned, or maybe it's a health issue that's going on. We have no idea why that person is feeling, but I think just asking first, but in general, be prepared, because if your internal instinct is telling you, hey, this is really a rough patch, like that's really been bad, there's usually a reason why, and be open and willing to receive whatever that is, because you're going to ask the question. Like, don't avoid, because you're not going to get the answer.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to not take it personal. So we got to be willing to be okay with the response and not be reactive, which goes back to communication styles. God, if all you can just teach communication style behavior in classes and workshops, and also like love languages, and not to speak an emotional reaction, and just to, again, pause and give things time, I think a lot of this would be a lot easier. But also with don't overanalyze, don't overthink it, don't put these ideas in your head, don't assume, have the conversation. It may not be one, it may be a few, and then from there go, okay, simple. I really thought we were in a rough patch. What are you thinking? Or is it time for us to move apart? And allow that person to, they may not be ready for it, to go, hey, I'm not ready, but great question. Let's come back to this. And then really just be ready for, no, I'm really wanting to work on it, or no, I think this has been our time. And depending on the relationship, there should be some maybe whys. What could I've done better? It's hard. Like, no one wants to sit there and go, well, I don't want to be in a relationship with you because this and this and this. Again, a lot of it's a mirror reflection, but it's good to also have that closure and that understanding, and then vice versa for you to reciprocate, and then just be thankful for the time you did. And then know that in 10 years and 15 years and 20 years, when you're 90 on your porch, you're like, man, I'm so glad that I had that time and I learned from that relationship, but that I moved forward. Because 9 out of 10, it's not going to be that way. You're going to be 90, you're going to be like, all the regrets and all the I didn't and all the I should have's, or the time and energy that you spent on so many other people and you never really did what you wanted to do. And you're also teaching this to if you have children, to your children, if the communities that you're in, you're normalizing what's not normal, and you're not making an impact, and you're not making a movement in relationships and what they should be in healthy relationships. I remember when we used to talk about like the divorce rate rising, and I'm like, it's not a nice statistic, but it's there. Remember back in the day when you couldn't get divorced? Like, so to me, it's like, we're trying to prevent all of that by having healthy conversations about what you want in a relationship. And no, that's not selfish. That's, again, saving time, saving money, saving heartache. The other people in relationships that affect that one conversation with that one relationship. And it's just going back to money. We're normalizing talking about money and how money should be talked about a little bit more. Oh, please hold. Put myself on pause.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap up this segment, and this has been really good, but one of the things that obviously is in like how to bring it back, right? I think one thing we need to remember is we're not the same. Even if you started a relationship a week ago, a month ago, you're not the same person, hopefully, that you were a month ago that you are now. So again, communication is really important, but I wanted to bring up 3 things that, that might help if you're trying to bring the love back into your world and your relationship with your partner. The first one would be just daily routines, daily rituals. What are you doing on a day in and day out basis that you guys can bring that connection back together? It can be so simple as taking 5 minutes every single day just to check in. How was your day? How do you feel? It can be over in the morning over coffee. It can be when you get home over a glass of wine. It can be before you go to whatever it is. How was your day today? Let's just check in with each other, and so that your worlds start connecting, because right now, obviously, they might not be. Another one might be, listen, you got yourself into this mess because there was probably a lot of physical touch going on. So let's go back to the physical touch of bringing that in. However, don't put the pressure on yourself that you have to go from 0 to 100. If 0 to 100 hasn't been happening, that's a real awkward place to be in. The most simple gestures are so kind. Putting your hand on someone's shoulder, putting your hand on someone's lower back, giving them a nice hug. And hugs like, oh, nice to see you, is not the same as just like a good hug. That doesn't have to be like, oh, I just want to take you to bed. It can be like, I just care about you as a person. It screams volumes of just like, it's okay. We all want to know it's going to be okay. We all love the feelings of like, I'm being taken care of and it's going to be okay. And just those simple, a hand gesture, holding someone's hand, right? Is such a nice, beautiful way of just saying, I know you're there and I appreciate. And that physical touch, you may feel like, I don't want to touch that person. But if you truly have a love for them in your heart, just taking the steps. I'm not saying the next day you're like, oh my gosh, then we were like on honeymoon again. I'm just saying, like, start breaking that ice. And the last one is talk about your future together. Talk about the things that you really do have in common. If you've been married for a really long time and you've had kids, guess what? Your kids are what you have in common. And not that you need to be talking about them all the time, because that can be, I think, a pit that people fall in. But I think it's okay to talk about that. And then you will find that there are things that you do have in common, from politics to sports to food to books to the air we breathe to planting. There's something that the two of you have in common, or else the universe wouldn't have brought you together to begin with. But do remember, you've changed and they've changed, and how really the rekindling kind of comes back too with understanding that this new version of that person, that they're still the same person you fell in love with. It's just that they've grown, hopefully, and matured. And as much as you want them to understand you, make sure you respectfully understand them too. But it all goes back to what we always say, you really need to understand who you are as a person first and be in love with yourself, because oh my God, if I could just, that almost like it overrules a multitude of, I don't want to say sins, but boo-boos in our world, because you're being authentic, you're being real with yourself, you understand what you want, you feel more of that confidence of who you are on the inside, and that just comes out naturally with the people that are closest to around you.
We know that just thinking about, how last year we did the summer series webinar we all like absolutely love with the workbook. Maybe we should do a spring series or a spring workshop online where we just do what is the real true meaning of relationship with self. Meaning, like, everything we just talked about today: communication, validation, boundaries, foundations, what we want. But like in that mode, because I think a lot of people, well, you don't have to be on, you don't have to watch us live, but it's a tool that we can add to our belt. And it's something that I think will tie in all the things that when people ask us, like, what's relationship with self, we can just go here. Like, this is a great little mini workshop that you can do for yourself that starts there. Like, hey, here you go. Start with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, we made it through part 1 with all the things.
Yes. With and our sponsor, Sleeping Good Tonight. Thank you, Sleep Number. To part 2 next week. We'll be back on. We won't be as long. This was a long one, but that's all the tech issues and my issues.
Well, and thank you for the questions and more to come. So each time we do this, please send in your questions. The next one, we're going to talk about the silence between people and how to stop the communication breakdown. And part 3 will be trust, time, and dollars, the keys to a stronger partnership. Dun, dun, dun. See you later.
Thank you for tuning in to Season 5 of Redesigning Your Relationships podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, don't forget to check out the poll feature and share your thoughts with us. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Follow us on social media for even more relationship insights and updates on what's coming next. Until then, remember, you have the power to design relationships that bring you joy, growth, and fulfillment into your life. See you next week.